America has lost the war. What war? I'm talking about the war in the Pacific against China and North Korea. I'm talking about the war in Europe against a resurgent Russia. I'm talking about the war in the Persian Gulf against a nuclear-armed Iran. I'm talking about the war in Africa against the Chinese Expeditionary Force that landed in East Africa to cut off America's cobalt, lithium, and other rare earth minerals supply. It lost because we didn't prepare the young men who will fight these battles to deal with the technology necessary to win future wars. After each war, the generals, national security experts, and intelligence gurus conduct an after-action review to determine lessons learned and use those lessons to prepare for the next war. One thing that the war in Ukraine is teaching us is that the battlefield of the future is one of technology. Every day, we see these extraordinary videos of drones so precise that they can identify targets on their own and initiate attacks. Drones so precise that they can fly inside the open hatches of these main battle tanks and explode once they are inside. We see loitering munitions, satellite-guided artillery rounds, and the jamming and tracing of battlefield communication. Technology, technology, technology. It's everywhere. And more of it is coming. The Army's next-generation battle tank, the Abrams X, is an AI-powered monster. Gone is the loader, and in its place will be a systems engineer or systems operator. The Bradley AFV/IFV is also being phased out. They are giving those things to Ukraine and anyone else who wants them. You'll soon see them in the hands of your local police department without a doubt. Armored fighting vehicles are wonderful weapons to stop that drug dealer who's selling nickel bags of weed out of his grandmother's basement. Replacing the Bradley will be the optionally manned fighting vehicle, which could be remotely controlled. Again, technology, technology, technology. But who is going to control this technology? We know the demographics. We know the economic and social backgrounds of the kids who join the military, and they aren't coming from Beverly Hills. Not to disparage or question the patriotism of kids hailing from the 90210 zip code, but the fact is, the kids enlisting in the military are primarily lower income, inner city, and rural. And it's precisely the schools in these areas that are failing our kids. We need to rethink the way we think about education. Education is not just an esoteric exercise, but a national security issue. When we talk about Chinese kids being ahead of our kids in STEM, this now has real repercussions on the battlefield. Operating, recoding, programming, and repairing sophisticated equipment on the battlefield is now a matter of life and death. Reprogramming a kamikaze drone in seconds will be the modern-day equivalent of clearing a jam in your rifle. Our schools are failing not only our kids, but the nation. We can teach coding in elementary schools. Code Ninjas begins teaching the fundamentals of coding to kids as young as 5. We need to implement coding and programming in our schools immediately. And yes, we have the money. Our schools are training tomorrow's soldiers, and having kids proficient enough to operate sophisticated weaponry is critical to the nation's defense. It's time for the Pentagon to break bread. And it's time for our legislators to provide the Department of Education with the same largesse it provides to the Pentagon. The Pentagon's budget for fiscal year 2023 was $842 billion. The Department of Education's budget was $176.81 billion. And yes, I know, education is funded by the individual states, but it's not the individual states responsible for the defense of the American Republic. Again, we need to treat school funding as the national security issue that it is. To win tomorrow's battles, we need to teach our kids the critical skill set they will need today. And while we are talking about funding, let's also talk about teacher pay. The average first-year teacher in Texas makes roughly $25 an hour. Teachers need to be put on a pay grade, like officers in the military. They need base pay, plus housing allowance, plus grocery allowance. They need to be promoted regularly according to testing and merit, and they also need to get paid based on the amount of time they've been in the profession. I have no problem with a teacher with 20 years of experience who has been promoted regularly over the years due to testing, proficiency, and performance metrics, getting paid like a colonel in the military. We need to revise the way we think about education. We need to view our education system less like a factory churning out kids who are ill-equipped to operate in the workforce and view it as a critical component of our national security. I hate to envision enemy forces coming over the hill and advancing toward our soldiers operating sophisticated weaponry but can't use it because Governor Ron DeSantis thought it was more important to teach them how to zigzag to avoid alligators than to teach coding and programming so they could reboot and bring their weapons back online and save themselves. It's time for our policymakers to get real and stop playing politics with the defense of this nation, and it's time for the Pentagon to crack open its piggy bank and spread some coin. This has been this week's feature article in Black Life Texas News Magazine. For more stories like this, pick up the latest edition at your local H-E-B or Jim's restaurant.